we as a function need to move away from systems, process, and governance and start thinking about this talent agenda. How do we influence business success through people performance?
Hi, Gordon here. This is a new format we're trying called the GSD Insight Series. Basically, each guest that we have on the podcast will be appearing in 2 episodes. First, you'll get to hear their own personal views on how to get stuff done. And secondly, we'll take a deep dive in the Insight series in their area of expertise to learn even more about them and their journey. I hope you like and really look forward to bringing you even better guests in the very near future. Welcome to the Get Stuff Done podcast. I'm delighted to be back with Jon Stanners. He is the VP of Talent and Customer Strategy at TalentPoint, specializing in readiness for new markets and solutions in PE/VC-backed companies. He drives transformation through talent processes, systems, and customer strategies. And we came to get to know one another after I reached out to asked him, what does it take to be a CHRO? And he came back to me with such a comprehensive answer, I felt I wanted to get him onto the podcast in order to have a bigger, deeper, more comprehensive chat with him. I think he has a lot to tell us about. He also has his own walk and talk. If you've been following me while LinkedIn, you'll know that I had a walk and talk in Seoul, and so we can also cover that as well. But first of all, Jon, thanks so much for being my guest today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
One of the answers that you gave when I asked about what it takes to be a good CHRO was to be digitally savvy. For people who are listening, who are maybe, have more experience, they maybe, let's say, grew up in an era where they weren't on, let's say, pre-internet era, perhaps even, or still remember using faxes, or where mobile phone was not just mobile phone was not a work tool. It was separate, right? Staying digitally savvy can be challenging. Any advice for people who absolutely need to and want to, but struggle with that?
Yeah, I think it's about, I just gave a recent talk about this notion of digital and human labour.
Okay.
And I think if we've got to think about how work is done. So if I go back a bit, I think we've got to figure out what tasks are needed to achieve our outcomes, and then consider whether those tasks could be done digitally, digital labour, or whether it needs a human, or importantly, whether we make a choice to automate or human. So I think it's about recognizing the world of possibility and understanding that there is often an option now to do workflow and process through digital labour rather than human labour. So that's the first thing, that's the mindset. Then I think it's down to, we don't need to be the experts to do it, to build it. We need experts in our team. Or we need to go and find the expertise in our business, which often sits in, and most organizations now, dare I say it, have a software engineer in their business, or at least have some outsourced partner who to do some of it. But I think there are a number of software engineers in our businesses now. And if we're not fortunate enough to have, like a HRIS team for us, for example, who are likely to have some capability, then maybe we've got to find it ourselves to do it. And a lot of our vendors have that capability, right? But I think for me, it's about recognizing there is the ability to do some of the work that we are tasked and responsible for completing can be done by digital means. The beauty about thinking this way, which is why I did answer it as one of the questions, is we can now design our function in a way that means we can release our human power, our human capability, the things that really matter. And we might get onto this, but one of the other things I said is because we as a function need to move away from systems, process, and governance and start thinking about this talent agenda. How do we influence business success through people performance? And I think if we start thinking about automation the systems and process, we can then free up our people, free up our humans, free up our human power and our capabilities to go and drive performance through our people. Get them ready for this stuff. Help them go through their own change, So that's where my mindset is on it now. I think a lot of the vendors are pivoting this way as well to try and help us go through that process. Because I don't think it's a unification for me. It's not about augmentation. I think we're already augmented in a digital world. I don't think that's the future or the now to the future. I think it's about the unification of it all. What do we want and need? Do we need all these digital tools? Do we want to be a human-centric organization? It's a choice. We can choose, right?
Yep.
There is a consequence of those choices, but we can choose. And that's where I come from. I think it's about the unifying the digital element.
Yeah, no, it is a choice, and that choice has been taken by organisations where you see some fully remote, dispersed around countries, never met face to face, fully automated and whatnot, and other organisations are still, in some cases, surprisingly still, offline, paper-based, sign it in duplicate, post those documents to me in person kind of thing. And yeah, so a real, spread on that particular one. For me also, and this was something coming out of COVID in that new era where there was a huge jump of digitalization, was the realization that there's been such a proliferation of digital tools, is that there is now basically a tool for anything you want to do. And so at any point of time, like you said, you're making that choice, you're thinking, is there something that can help me do this? Or the answer is pretty much always yes. And so you can find it easily and experiment with it, and that changed my mindset. So in basically 2020, second half thereof, I totally redesigned our tech stack and integrated a lot of new tools. Also, that integration of tools has got a lot better as well. So there's a lot more. And then I realized that you can constantly iterate it, right? Because all of a sudden this is now, now we are working in this particular geographic jurisdiction, and that doesn't cover that, so we need something else. Or now we've taken on a few more people. That tool is now too expensive for us. Now we're working with this number of people. We need to change to something else, and there's almost like a bit of a constant need to analyze what's effective at any one time and stay agile on that front as well, which I guess is sometimes done proactively, but perhaps for large organizations there's someone tasked with doing that, but maybe in small organizations it's more required for everybody to keep their eyes and ears open for that as well.
Yeah, I think it starts with a mindset, and a what do we want to be? What's the environment? What's the workforce design? Because they are then drive the behaviour, they drive the choices. I'm just reflecting on a recent walk and talk I did, where the guy was head of talent acquisition, and he's looking at how he can remove some of the administrative burden from the coordinators, the recruitment coordinators, and actually sort of change the dynamic or grow their role to much more of a candidate ambassador. So they move from sort of moving candidates through a process, through a workflow, and actually start nurturing them and paying them attention. The way to do that is to automate the workflow. So look at all the touch points, look at all the taskonomy, and think about where digital can be done, which then I get more time back. Then I can give that back to the coordinators to say, right, your performance now is about nurturing candidates, getting really good candidate feedback, getting them prepared for interviews. We want to see them at their best. These sorts of things, the role dynamics change. And now that for me is a perfect example of where digital savviness really comes in. We want to improve our candidate experience. When we have to do that at the same cost base, but we're going to invest in the short to mid-term to invest in building these workflows, automation, so that we can maintain our current headcount, but redesign that capability, redesign their role to focus on the candidate. And I just think that is a perfect example of where I think we should be behaving now, and we absolutely need to be headed towards in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, which we hadn't even necessarily discussed up to that point, which is that all of this digital integration, I think when we talk digitalization, people are always thinking initially that it's just internal, but it's as much external as it is internal, and sometimes it's both at the same time. With that being said, candidate experience is one of the areas that I always feel is an easy win for companies to improve. Are there any other areas within, let's say, HR management that you feel could be easy improvements that are so glaringly obvious that companies should do better in this area but don't? What would be some of those things which you feel could be done better?
So I think focusing on the development and the performance of our people, I think we've done a reasonably good job in transitioning from traditional HR, governance process systems, to employee experience, just trying to create a nicer environment for our people to thrive. I think we've kind of gone on that step change, and that's an amazing place to be. I think the future is, with the rise of automation and AI, with that mindset of environment, and there is a symbiosis between positive environment to positive business outcome through people. How do we start to develop and prepare our people for a future that currently we don't really know what that looks like? So how do we invest our time and our skill and our desires? I think there is a desire for this from our function and from our peers to look at how we develop and build performance in our people. And the reason I think that is a demand is not just because of the symbiosis between business success and people performance. That is an obvious one. If we're all able to reach our potential and thrive, business thrives, right? That's an obvious one. It's what our employees are asking for. They're asking to be developed. They're asking for new skill. They're asking for new experiences. So the door is wide open. We've just got to turn our attention to it. Again, back to the very beginning of this signal versus noise. I think we've got to create, our function needs to be able to do that. I think a lot of our peers in other functions, sales, finance, technology, all of those are kind of looking at their teams and going, crikey, I've got a lot of technical ability. These are really, really good technical people, but we're operating in a current state and a future that is uncertain. We're not sure how to adapt our people towards that. We are not experts in it. And I think they are looking to the HR community to step up. I don't know whether we can, in truth, but I think that is the opportunity. And that's one of the things I answered to your question. I think it is about future business success is going to be about people performance and people development, because we're moving into a future we just don't know. And you can't rely on traditional education to bring up early careers. And those that are in the workforce, 2 or 3 different generations in the workforce now, are not going to go back to school. Like we have to take some agency in that as an organisation, and take them and put the give the input. Yes, there is agency on the individuals. They have to have a desire to adapt and change and learn, definitely. But I think it starts with the organisation. So, like candidate experience, we want good people coming into our organisations. We want to see them at their best through the interview process. So we want to focus on candidate experience, which improves the likelihood of them being a success in role. We need to focus on that in-house. For me, it's a supply chain. We have to think about the person and we design for them. We don't design for the business. Our user, as HR people, are our employees, and we need to design for them. So that's an open door for me that we need to move towards.
Yeah. However, unfortunately, so often you were saying we need to do that as an organization, and I fully agree that that is the need. But so often it's HR's job. It's something that every other function buckets as HR's job. And so my question is, how can we take the organization to be fully people-centric, fully embracing that need to do it as an organization as opposed to HR's job?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm
$1 million question.
Yeah, I think I'm reflecting on my other point when we connected. I think because I totally subscribe to everything you're saying. People is a business challenge. It's not a HR challenge, right? So, I think to help us, we need to be tailoring the why towards the business. When we are positioning this, I think we have to become more business focused in our narrative. We have to consider the commercial acumen and the commercial outcomes of these things. I think it is symbiotic. If we focus on our people performance, you business leaders who think this is a HR problem will increase your business performance, your function, your customer outcome, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think when we're designing these programs and influencing the business, we have to come at it through their lens. And then we can get into people. So, I guess in summary, it's business first, then people to our peers and our boards and our stakeholders. To our employees, it's people first, and if you do this, this is the outcome. Business succeeds, we grow, you can get paid more, you get bigger bonus, you get all of the benefits and cut that you want. All of these sorts of things are symbiotic. But I think the positioning, we need to be more clever in how we position it. And we have to evidence the outcomes, which have to have a business lens. We can't just rely on employee engagement. We can't alone. It's not a North Star metric for us. It is a metric that's important. It's a feedback loop. But ultimately, the things we inject into the organization, development program, leadership change, anything like that, has to show positive impact to the business North Star metrics. Often revenue, often growth, maybe customer NPS. We just have to be okay with it. And often I find we can shy away from that stuff as people leaders because we think, oh yeah, but are we at risk of damaging our people? Well, we are a business. That is the game we are playing.
Yep.
And our people are a huge enabler for that success, if not the enabler.
Yes.
And we have to think that way. And I think you treat the people, your employees, with the respect that they deserve. They're not stupid. They understand that game. So let's just behave that way. Would be my thoughts on it.
Fully agree, and I believe that everybody who's been listening to this conversation will also, if that's something that's new for them, then that's great that they can do it. But I think it is evidence the outcomes, like you said, and then business first, people second for the business, for the ultimate, for influencing them, people first, in order to achieve the business outcomes to people and individuals. I think that's a great summary. And so I think on that note, Jon, we've covered a lot of good and practical topics today. I hope that everybody has enjoyed this conversation, and hopefully it can be food to start some new conversations. If people would like to reach out to you and maybe get in touch, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, all my content's on there. My walk and talks I distribute on LinkedIn. and there's wonderful insights there from all my companions, who I'm incredibly grateful for taking me on a walk. Yeah, and yeah, they can connect on here.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well,
connect on LinkedIn.
we'll share those links, and sounds like we also need to look at collaborating on a walk and talk in the future. But
Oh, Gordon, I'd love that so much, especially now you're in the UK. I'd love that. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Now
please.
we're relatively close. John, thank you so much for being the guest today.
Thank you for having me. Cheerio.
And thanks everybody for watching and listening to this episode. It's been another great Get Stuff Done with Jon Stanners. And remember, everybody, let's get stuff done. Thank you for listening to the Get Stuff Done podcast. If you would like to be a guest in the future, please do reach out. Or if you would like to recommend someone, that would be awesome as well. Make sure you keep listening, as we will be bringing you fresh insights every week, because getting stuff done is something everyone needs.